That jar of peanut butter in your pantry isn't what you think it is. The creamy spread you've been eating for decades, the natural almond butter you switched to for better health, the jelly you're putting on your kids' sandwiches. They might contain hydrogenated oils your cardiologist warned you about, hidden sugar disguised by FDA rounding loopholes, or metal contamination from processing equipment that's been grinding away for years. I spent weeks investigating America's spread brands. What I found will make you check every label in your kitchen. In the next 15 minutes, I'm going to expose exactly which 7 spreads are lying to you. By the end, you'll know exactly which spreads to avoid and what 5 brands are delicious and actually deserve space in your kitchen. Let's start with the spread villains. Jif is America's #1 peanut butter, holding 32% market share by convincing generations that childhood nostalgia is more important than cardiovascular health. That familiar blue lid, those memories of mom making sandwiches, all brilliantly designed to make you ignore what's actually inside the jar. Sugar is listed before peanut content, which means you're eating more sweetener than actual nuts. That creamy texture everyone loves? It comes from fully hydrogenated vegetable oils, the exact oils cardiologists warn against for arterial plaque buildup. JIF achieves smooth spreadability through industrial chemistry, not peanut quality. They've spent a century building brand loyalty through advertising budgets that dwarf entire natural peanut butter companies' annual revenue. They've convinced America this is what peanut butter should taste like, when what it actually tastes like is hydrogenated oils and sugar with some peanuts mixed in for legal compliance. The blue lid is iconic because they've made you associate it with childhood comfort, not because the product inside deserves your trust. They market peanut butter simplicity, while the ingredient list reads like a chemistry experiment designed for shelf stability and profit margins. At the same price as natural peanut butters with 0 industrial oils, Jif remains #1 purely through nostalgia and advertising dominance. You're paying for childhood memories while eating oils your doctor told you to avoid. Smuckers built a multi-billion-dollar empire on that red gingham label evoking grandma's homemade quality. The brand positioning is pure nostalgia, traditional, trustworthy, wholesome. Then the FDA inspection reports came back showing serious mold contamination in jars with compromised seals. High fructose corn syrup is listed before actual strawberries, which means you're eating more corn syrup than fruit. Each serving delivers over 20 grams of HFCS, creating rapid blood glucose spikes that your pancreas wasn't designed to handle repeatedly. Consumer reports document jars arriving with visible mold growth around lids, fermented smells, and separation proving the seals failed. The FDA documented these contamination issues through multiple inspections, yet no official recall was ever issued. Smuckers got a regulatory pass while families kept eating potentially contaminated jam. The brand that promises homemade quality failed multiple FDA inspections and faced 0 consequences. You're supposed to trust the red gingham label while eating jam sweetened primarily with corn syrup instead of actual fruit, with documented mold contamination that never triggered a recall. Smuckers charges mid-tier pricing for corn syrup jam with documented FDA violations and regulatory protection that other brands don't get. The nostalgia is real. The mold contamination is too. Peter Pan launched in 1928, promising magical nutrition through a whimsical brand that turned childhood comfort food into a sugar delivery system. By 2006, that magic turned into a bacterial nightmare. The Conagra facility in Sylvester, Georgia, became a salmonella breeding ground. The FDA discovered a leaking roof dripping moisture directly onto peanut processing equipment, storm-damaged sugar silos, and roasters so deteriorated they couldn't heat peanuts evenly, creating perfect bacteria incubation spots throughout each batch. The contamination sickened 425 people across 44 states. Worse, Conagra knew about these facility failures and shipped products anyway. The company paid $11.2 million in criminal penalties and entered a guilty plea for knowingly distributing contaminated food. Beyond the salmonella nightmare, Peter Pan's formula reveals the real ongoing problem. The ingredient list reads like candy: roasted peanuts, sugar, hydrogenated vegetable oil, salt, and molasses. They literally add molasses on top of sugar, transforming protein spread into peanut-flavored dessert. The hydrogenated oils create artificially smooth texture, requiring no stirring, but also create waxy mouthfeel, coating your tongue like edible plastic. Excessive sweetness overwhelms natural peanut flavor. The result tastes nothing like actual peanuts. For your 55-plus audience managing diabetes or cardiovascular health, Peter Pan represents double betrayal. A brand that poisoned families with negligent facility practices, then doubled down by engineering their product into sugar-heavy candy disguised as protein. This isn't nostalgia worth protecting. It's a cautionary tale about corporate negligence, prioritizing profit over safety, and a product still circulating in grocery stores today under the same compromised brand name. Welch's dominates the jelly market with that iconic purple jar and Concord grape imagery suggesting wholesome fruit preserved for year-round enjoyment. The brand is a breakfast table staple trusted for generations, which makes the sugar content even more offensive. Each serving contains 26 grams of pure sugar. That's more sugar than a Snickers bar, but at least Snickers doesn't pretend to be breakfast. And it's not real fruit sugar from Concord grapes. It's high-fructose corn syrup engineered for addictive sweetness, creating glucose spikes followed by crashes that cause dizziness and confusion. Manufacturing failures include documented broken seals, fermented smells, and visible mold growth inside supposedly sealed jars. The FDA received multiple reports of GI illness from contaminated batches, yet no official recall was ever issued. Welch's got the same regulatory protection as Smuckers. Documented problems, zero consequences. The bright artificial purple requires chemical enhancement because natural Concord grapes are much darker. You're eating artificially colored corn syrup with minimal actual grape content, and the excess sugar accelerates kidney disease progression in ways that are measurable and documented. Why does Welch's get regulatory protection despite documented consumer illness? What kind of lobbying power allows them to avoid recalls when the FDA has their contamination documented in inspection reports? Welch's charges mid-tier pricing for corn syrup jelly with documented FDA complaints and sugar levels that make Snickers look restrained. The purple jar is iconic. The formula inside is a metabolic disaster wrapped in regulatory protection. Smucker's Goober promises convenience. No need to combine spreads yourself. Those pre-striped peanut butter and honey layers that stay magically separated look innovative and time-saving. The jar design creates the impression of quality ingredients working together. Corn syrup is listed before honey, which means that honey stripe contains more corn syrup than actual honey. The stripes stay separated through a cocktail of stabilizers and preservatives. You're paying for chemistry that keeps stripes from mixing, not for quality ingredients. The stabilizer overload creates emulsifier exposure with documented gut health concerns. You're getting all the sugar and all the chemical engineering, but none of the actual convenience, because the stripes don't stay separated once you break the seal anyway. Smucker's markets visual appeal while hiding the fact that achieving those stripes requires more chemical engineering than actual food. It looks innovative in the store. It's corn syrup and stabilizers pretending to be peanut butter and honey. At the same price as natural peanut butter with zero stabilizers, Smucker's Goober charges premium pricing for corn syrup stripes and emulsifier cocktails disguised as innovation. You're paying for chemistry designed to look impressive on store shelves. Nutella is a global chocolate spread leader with aggressive marketing positioning this as acceptable breakfast food. The brand targets families and kids with sophisticated advertising that makes spreading chocolate on toast seem like a legitimate morning meal instead of what it actually is, dessert disguised as nutrition. The sugar content is over 50% by weight. This is essentially candy marketed as breakfast. A standard serving contains more sugar than Coca-Cola per serving when you adjust for typical spread portions. Parents serve this at breakfast without checking the label because the marketing has convinced them it's food, not dessert. The palm oil creates both environmental and health costs. Significant Indonesian rainforest deforestation linked to production, plus cardiovascular inflammation that contributes to arterial plaque. The cocoa is so heavily processed, it destroys any beneficial antioxidants that actual chocolate would provide. Nutella contains more sugar per serving than Coca-Cola, but because it's spreadable instead of drinkable, it gets positioned as breakfast instead of candy. The marketing is so sophisticated it's turned dessert into a breakfast staple for millions of families. The positioning deception is particularly galling. Marketed as acceptable breakfast, when it's high-calorie candy with minimal nutritional value. The marketing is brilliant enough to convince millions of parents that feeding their kids chocolate candy for breakfast is somehow acceptable because it comes in a jar. Nutella charges premium pricing for what's essentially chocolate candy with palm oil and more sugar than soda. The hazelnut content is minimal. The sugar content is catastrophic. The marketing turned dessert into breakfast. For 40 years, I Can't Believe It's Not Butter promised a heart-healthy alternative to real butter while hiding trans fats behind FDA loopholes and carcinogenic compounds in nearly every jar. The product contains partially hydrogenated soybean oil, which is trans fat. But FDA loopholes allow brands to claim 0 grams trans fats if each serving contains under 0.5 grams. You're still consuming trans fats with every spread, just hidden by regulatory language that lets them round down to 0. Independent testing found this product contains glycidol and 3-MCPD, carcinogenic compounds created during oil processing. The Hong Kong Consumer Council specifically identified margarine brands with extremely high levels of these contaminants. You've been eating low-level carcinogens while thinking you were making the healthy choice. The industrial seed oil creates inflammatory imbalances from excessive omega-6 fatty acids. The natural flavor listed on labels is regulatory vague language for synthetic compounds engineered to taste buttery without using actual butter. Here's the betrayal. People who've been consuming this for decades believing it was heart-healthy have actually been eating trans fats and carcinogens regularly. The brand built its empire on convincing America that fake butter was better than real butter, while independent testing proved the fake version contains compounds that are genuinely dangerous. The name itself is marketing genius. I Can't Believe It's Not Butter makes you focus on how similar it tastes instead of asking what's actually inside. You can't believe it's not butter because it's engineered to fool your taste buds while delivering trans fats your body can't process. At $3 to $5 per tub, you're paying for trans fats hidden by loopholes, carcinogenic processing compounds, and 40 years of deceptive marketing that convinced millions this was the healthy choice. Enough with the metal contamination and carcinogenic compounds. Subscribe and stick around because the next 5 spreads prove that quality exists. You just need to know where to look. When Once Again started in 1976, they made a radical choice. Test peanuts for aflatoxins before purchasing them, then test again after production. In an era when FDA testing was the bare minimum, Once Again decided to double down on transparency. Testing twice exceeds FDA standards through voluntary quality control. This obsessive commitment to food safety reflects their fundamental decision: employee ownership. When workers own the company making the product, quality control becomes a personal investment rather than a corporate checkbox. The formula is elegantly simple: organic roasted peanuts and optional salt. That's it. No hydrogenated oils, no sugar, no engineered emulsifiers designed for infinite shelf life. The oil separation you see on top is proof. Natural peanut fat, not chemical stabilizers. It tastes like actual peanuts instead of industrial chemistry experiments. Glass jars are sustainable and BPA-free. Every detail reflects values: transparency over profit margins, durability over convenience, actual food over engineered products. Registered dietitians specifically recommend once again as the healthiest store-bought option. When nutrition professionals who've reviewed every brand recommend one, this is it. At $6 to $8 per jar, once again costs more than Jif or Skippy. But you're paying for what matters: double aflatoxin testing, employee ownership structures that protect quality, and peanuts that haven't been engineered into chemistry experiments. Transparency that proves quality isn't just marketing claims, it's measurable, verifiable, and worth the price difference. Sunflower seed butter emerged in the 1990s as the allergen-free revolution, a genuine alternative for families where peanut and tree nut allergies made traditional spreads dangerous. But the category exploded without quality standards, flooding shelves with untested, rancid products marketed as safe simply because they lacked allergens. Premium SunButter refuses that compromise. While cheap generic sunflower butters rely on minimal processing and zero testing, SunButter, no sugar, added undergoes third-party testing for rancidity and oxidation, the exact problems that make budget versions smell like spoiled oil. The formula contains roasted sunflower seeds and salt with less than 1 gram natural sugar per serving. That's it. No emulsifiers, no stabilizers, no engineered texture. The plant-based protein delivers 7 grams per serving, matching peanut butter nutritionally. Allergen safety is rigorously certified through third-party verification. Peanut-free, soy-free, tree nut-free facilities. Non-GMO project verified and gluten-free certified. Multiple certifications that generic brands skip entirely because testing costs money. The cost is accessible, $5 to $7 per jar at Target and Walmart, the same price as cheap rancid versions, but with actual testing backing the safety claims. This removes the barrier that keeps families with allergies buying untested budget alternatives out of desperation. For your audience managing nut sensitivities, SunButter. No sugar proves allergen-free doesn't mean compromising on quality. It means tested, certified safety, not just the absence of allergens. Bonne Maman's French-made spread delivers what European ingredient standards require: 20% actual hazelnuts creating rich, nutty chocolate flavor, real cocoa powder and cocoa butter instead of processed powder, and 9 grams sugar versus Nutella's 16 grams of salt, proving that French manufacturing standards still mean something. The spread is specifically formulated without palm oil, which is rare in the hazelnut spread category. European production maintains ingredient quality standards that American alternatives don't match. The significantly lower sugar makes this safer for blood glucose control, while the 20% actual hazelnut content creates richer flavor than Nutella's stabilizer-heavy formula. You can taste the difference between 20% actual hazelnuts and Nutella's engineered spread. The nut flavor is present and distinct, not buried under sugar overload. The real cocoa creates chocolate depth instead of just sweetness masked with brown coloring. At $6 to $8 per jar, Bonne Maman proves you can get chocolate hazelnut spread without palm oil deforestation, without excessive sugar, and without Nutella's ingredient problems. You're paying for 20% actual hazelnuts and 45% less sugar than the market leader. Artisana was founded by raw food enthusiasts who believed chocolate hazelnut spread shouldn't require palm oil deforestation and sugar overload, creating an organic alternative that proves you can have indulgent flavor without destroying rainforests or spiking blood glucose. They use all organic ingredients: hazelnuts, coconut sugar, cacao powder, coconut MCT oil, and vanilla. Everything is USDA organic, certified with rigorous sourcing standards that conventional brands skip entirely. The coconut sugar provides lower glycemic impact than refined sugar or corn syrup, while the MCT oil base provides cleaner fat than palm oil. The sugar content is 9 grams per serving compared to Nutella's 16 grams, 45% less sugar while maintaining satisfying chocolate flavor. Rainforest Alliance certification ensures ethical sourcing without environmental destruction. You're paying for organic ingredients, lower sugar, no palm oil, and ingredients you can actually pronounce without a chemistry degree. At $8 to $10 per jar, Artisana is expensive. But compare this to Nutella at similar pricing with 16 grams sugar and palm oil-linked deforestation, and Artisana's integrity becomes obvious. You're paying for what chocolate hazelnut spread should be when companies choose quality over profit margins. This is the spread that proves you don't need sugar to make breakfast interesting, and it's the best product on this list. Sabra Classic Hummus as breakfast bread spread is a novel angle most Americans haven't considered. But chickpeas offer plant-based protein, stable blood glucose, and actual nutritional density that peanut butter can't match. The chickpea base delivers high fiber and 3 grams plant-based protein per serving with dramatically lower sugar than jam or jelly categories that deliver over 20 grams per serving. Tahini provides healthy fats that support cardiovascular health. The low glycemic index helps stabilize blood glucose instead of spiking it like corn syrup jams. The micronutrient density includes folate, magnesium, potassium, and iron, nutrients often lacking in typical American diets. Sabra uses U.S.-sourced chickpeas from the Palouse region with non-GMO verification, gluten-free certification, and transparent sourcing. Consumer reviews describe noticeable chickpea flavor, silky smooth texture, and no rancid oil undertone that plagues cheap nut butters. Most Americans never think of hummus as bread spread, but this is authentic food providing actual nutrition instead of processed candy dressed up as breakfast. This is what spreads should be. Recognizable ingredients creating satisfying flavor with nutritional density. At $3 to $5 per container, Sabra is affordable. Compare this to Nutella at $5 to $7 with 16 grams sugar and palm oil, and Sabra's value becomes undeniable. You're paying for chickpeas and tahini instead of sugar candy marketed as morning food. Your kitchen deserves better than hydrogenated oils disguised as childhood nostalgia. Your health deserves better than metal contamination recalls and trans fats hidden by FDA loopholes. The worst offenders build empires on advertising budgets and regulatory protection, convincing America that chemistry experiments are food. But the champions prove that quality exists when companies prioritize integrity over profit margins. Brands that test twice for contaminants, disclose every ingredient, and refuse to hide behind FDA rounding loopholes show that spreads can be both delicious and honest. Hit subscribe for more food truth and drop a comment about which spreads you've been buying. Let's see how many of us have been betrayed by brands we trusted for generations. Until next time, keep your standards high and your spreads honest.